After months lampooning President Joe Biden as a cognitively disabled brain-dead zombie who can't wrap up a sentence or explore off a stage, former President Donald Trump and his campaign are changing their tune days ahead of the basic debate of the decision. The commander-in-chief has abruptly morphed into a worthy debater, somebody of impressive capacity and an experienced political entertainer who isn't to be belittled, concurring to Trump and his lieutenants. The amusement of pre-debate expectation setting is frequently ridiculous. One helper to previous President George W. Bush once claimed that John Kerry, his majority rule adversary in 2004, was distant better, much better, a higher, stronger, and improved greeter than a higher debater than Roman rhetorician Cicero. But the Trump team's move is surprising given their tenacious ambush on Biden's resources. And it incites at their conceivable concerns that they've set an pointlessly moo-bar for the president's execution ahead of Thursday's clash facilitated by CNN in Atlanta. North Dakota Gov. Doug Burgum, a possible Trump bad habit presidential pick, tried to reset the balance on CNN's State of the Union on Sunday. The guy's run for office more than a dozen times. He's run for president 4 times. He's been campaigning since President Nixon was in office, he said. This fellow has got the ability. Trump is additionally supporting against a stronger-than-expected Biden, appearing by proposing his adversary will be jacked up on drugs to guarantee a solid execution. The Biden campaign, in the interim, powers its unused endeavor to depict Trump as an unhinged criminal who is ethically heretic, out to benefit his wealthy companions and unfit for return to the Oval Office. The president's campaign, which is marking the moment commemoration of Roe v. Wade's reversal this week and making fetus removal a key race issue, guaranteed in a reminder Sunday that the head-to-head would at last appear voters that differentiate Biden accepts will preclude Trump. Thursday's talkabout will be one of the primary minutes of this presidential campaign, where a bigger cut of the American voters will have the opportunity to witness the stark choice between Joe Biden, who is battling for the American individuals, and Donald Trump, who is battling for himself as an indicted criminal with an unhinged campaign of exact retribution and retribution, campaign communications chief Michael Tyler composed. A minute that may characterize the campaign and America's future. The abnormal claims and pregame turn reflect the imperative significance of the debate, with the rematch between Biden and Trump neck-and-neck fair over 4 months from race day. The standoff comes in the midst of severity between the rivals, particularly within the wake of Trump erroneously claiming that he won the 2020 race. The shadow of Trump's criminal conviction and his sentencing in New York next month is including an additional level of pressure at a time when the ex-president is undermining to utilize a moment term to correct exact retribution against his foes, and as Biden cautions Trump will crush majority-rule government. Trump's utilize of his weekend events as warm-ups contrasts with Biden's measured approach. The president is sequestered at Camp David in Maryland with an expansive group of assistants and wrangle about specialists planning for assembly with Trump that seem characterize his re-election offered. Millions of voters on Thursday will have a chance to survey the vitality, perseverance, and mental sharpness of an 81-year-old president who has obviously matured and moderated in office, as surveys appear most Americans think he's as well ancient to serve another term. Less voters stress almost the cognitive well-being of Trump, who is as it were a long time more youthful at 78. But the ex-president's brash behavior, assaults on the legal framework and realities, and reverence for remote tyrants, which enchant his supporters, frequently distance swing state rural voters who are likely to choose the another president. But the talk about cuts more profound than identities. Voters harming from a long time of tall costs and longing for the return to the complete pre-pandemic ordinariness that Biden guaranteed for a long time prior will be holding up to listen how the candidates can ease the financial weight bearing down on their families. Biden's campaign is signaling he will display himself as a drive of solidness, tending to the requirements of families that contrasts with Trump's dark vision and the GOP's dangers to fetus removal rights. The ex-president is, in the interim, bludgeoning Biden as dazzled to a southern border emergency and what he claims are cities scared by wrongdoing, whereas attempting to invoke wistfulness for the Trump economy sometime recently the COVID-19 crash. Trump's alter of tone. Trump tempered prior appraisals of Biden's likely execution in a meet with the All In podcast discharge Thursday. He beat Paul Ryan, Trump said, alluding to the bad habit presidential talk about in 2012 when Biden dispatched Republican nominee Glove Romney's running mate. "I'm not belittling him," Trump said. "I expect he's aiming to be someone that will be a commendable debater." Burgum, too, looked forward to oversee desires on State of the Union in a way that appeared to undercut the Trump campaign's long-held position that Biden is not fit to serve as president. "When he needs to, he can step up," he told Caitlin Collins. "This fellow has got the capacity, and we've seen it. We've seen him in debate for a long time prior. We've seen him within the State of the Union this year, that when he should, he can step up. I say he'll come out all jacked up, right?" The hypothetical GOP nominee's proposals of chemical mediation reflected his reaction to Biden's traveling State of the Union address prior this year when a fired-up president made a joke of preservationist media desires that he'd falter amid the discourse and instep countered their narrative of mental decay. He taunted Biden for getting to a log cabin to consider, prepare, and claimed the president was sleeping at Camp David because they need to induce him great and strong. So a small sometime recently talk about time he gets a shot within the asterisk. Trump included. Trump showed up in Washington, D.C. at a conference of Christian conservatives on Saturday, sometime recently heading to Philadelphia, looking for to seize back a state Biden won in 2020 and without which either man may battle to induce to 270 discretionary votes. Burgum's appraisal is conflicting with the ex-president's depiction of his equal in indeed a few of his most later appearances. Within the key battleground state of Wisconsin final week, for occasion, Trump said of Biden, "He can't discover his way off a organize ever." After preservationist media highlighted misleadingly altered video of Biden at the G7 summit in Italy this month, Trump Representative Caroline Leavitt denounced the president of wandering around like a brain-dead zombie and of putting cognitive decrease on full display. CNN senior political commentator David Axelrod said on State of the Union that the Trump campaign's inversion had been fun to watch. He famous Trump went through the final five a long time describing Biden as totally bumbling, to the point where, in case Biden arrives and takes off beneath his claim control, that would be a triumph. "I think they have recognized within the last couple of weeks, whoa, this fellow is planning to surpass those desires, and we'd way better begin making a basis for him having a better than average night." An amplifying glass on the choice. The previous president has demanded he won't be taking part in deride talks about, in spite of the fact that he has held what were depicted as arrangement gatherings with Republicans, counting Florida Senator Marco Rubio, another potential bad habit presidential contender. There's developing hypothesis approximately Trump's approach after his hyper-aggressive and angry execution within the to begin with talk about against Biden in 2020 reverse discharges. South Dakota Gov. Kristi Noem had a few exhortation for the ex-president on NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday. "I do not think he has got to get individual in this wrangle about it all since he's progressing to have so numerous great things to conversation approximately indifferentiate with Joe Biden's policies," she said. Not at all like Trump, who went through the end of the week making features. Biden hunkered down at the presidential withdrawal in Catoctin Mountain stop north of Washington. At his side were former White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain, who has been prepping Democrats for presidential talks about for an era and other long-term supporters counting Mike Donilon, Bruce Reed, Anita Dunn, and Steve Ricchetti. Previous Obama White House guide and Biden's individual lawyer, Bounce Bauer, who sources said was likely to repeat his part playing Trump in wrangle about PrEP, was too on hand. In its reminder, the Biden campaign said that Group Biden-Harris is putting a magnifying glass on the choice this week as Democrats in Atlanta and over the nation organize around this moment. The comparison on Appear Indeed, sometime recently, the wrangle about epitomizes the rivals' inverse approaches to the administration. Trump is open, grating, befoul, and as ever mocking the desires of conventional statesmanship. Biden is ordinary, cautious, and looking forward to reestablish the standards that Trump once destroyed.